A different kind of rich. There's a certain quiet that I miss, something about the way mornings used to feel. When I was a child in the Midwest, the world seemed slower then. Stores closed on Sundays, neighbors talked over fences, and no one rushed through their lives. These days, everything moves so fast. The clock ticks louder, the ads grow bolder, and somewhere along the way, it became normal to measure our worth by how much we buy, not how deeply we live. I've spent a good part of my life working hard, raising a family, filling closets and garages with things I thought mattered. And for a while, they did. But over time, I started to notice something. The more I owned, the heavier I felt. Not physically, emotionally. Like I was carrying a weight I couldn't quite name. It wasn't until I started letting go of urgency, of the need to keep up, that I began to feel light again. I'm not here to say consumerism is wrong or that you should give everything away. That's not the point. What I've come to believe is this: we each reach a moment when we realize that real wealth has nothing to do with what's in our wallet, and everything to do with what's in our days. Peace, time, connection. These are the treasures that don't come in packages. So if you've been feeling that pull, like maybe it's time to live a little differently, you're not alone. There's another way to move through this world. And maybe, just maybe, it starts with slowing down. Let's talk about what it means to live more simply, and what we might gain when we begin to let go. 1. When less becomes enough. There comes a time in life, often quietly, without any big announcement, when you begin to feel differently about things. Not about everything, just the stuff, the things you used to chase, the things you once thought you needed. I didn't notice it all at once. It came in waves, little realizations, like standing in the middle of a full closet and still not knowing what to wear, or looking around a room full of furniture and feeling strangely crowded, not by people, but by possessions. When I was younger, like most people, I bought into the message, more is better. More meant you were doing well. We worked hard, saved up, and rewarded ourselves with things: a new car, a bigger house, a better TV. It was the American dream, after all, and there's no shame in that. That dream came from a place of hope, of building something after times of struggle. But what they don't always tell you is that the dream keeps shifting. Once you get what you wanted, there's always something newer, shinier, or bigger just around the corner. And before you know it, you're not working for peace, you're working for upkeep. Now that I'm older, the shine has worn off. I look back and remember the slower pace of life when I was a kid, when Sundays were for resting, not running errands, when coffee tasted better because you had time to enjoy it. I don't regret what I've owned, but I do question how much of it I really needed, and more importantly, how much of it ever truly added to my life. Some of the best moments I've had lying with my grandkids, sitting quietly by the lake, listening to old songs with my wife didn't cost a thing. I've started to think that we don't stop wanting more because we're greedy. We do it because we're told it's normal. The world around us is built on the idea that buying something will make us feel better, look better, be better. And maybe it does, for a little while. But it fades. What stays with us are the things we can't buy: connection, time, presence. Those are the things I've come to value most. If you've been feeling restless lately, like something isn't quite right, maybe it's not you. Maybe it's the noise of a world trying to sell you peace instead of letting you find it. There's another way, quieter but steady. You don't have to give up everything or move to the woods. You can start by asking yourself, do I really need this? Does it add to my life or just fill space? The answers might surprise you, and over time, they might even free you. And once we begin to question what we truly need, it becomes easier to let go of what no longer belongs. 2. The weight we didn't know we carried. It's strange how quiet the world becomes when you start letting go of things. Not just the noise of stuff shifting around you, but something deeper. A mental stillness. A sense that, finally, you can hear yourself think. I didn't always feel that way. For most of my life, I lived like many people do in this country, collecting, storing, keeping things just in case. Every drawer had a purpose. Every shelf held memories. Or so I told myself. I remember when I first thought about downsizing. The kids had grown, the house was too big, and I kept wondering why I was cleaning rooms no one lived in anymore. It felt wasteful, in more ways than one. But the idea of parting with so much felt overwhelming, not because I needed the items, hadn't used half of them in years, but because they were tied to parts of me, or so I thought. When I finally did it, sold the house and moved into a smaller place, had to make choices, real choices, not about color schemes or storage bins, but about what mattered. I found 5 coffee makers I didn't know I had, 3 boxes of cables I couldn't identify, clothes I hadn't worn in a decade. Each item asked me the same question: why are you still holding on to this? And somewhere along the way, something shifted. I started feeling lighter, not just physically, but emotionally, like I'd been walking around carrying bags I never meant to pack. With every item I gave away, something softened inside me. The pressure to maintain, to organize, to protect all this stuff, it began to lift. What remained was simple and enough. This isn't about minimalism as a trend. It's not about counting how few things you own. It's about space, inner and outer, about no longer filling your surroundings with distractions or just-in-case clutter. Because after a while, those objects start to speak louder than your own thoughts. They take up room that could be used for peace or creativity or simply rest. I know this isn't easy. We grow up in a culture that celebrates more bigger houses, full garages, holiday sales. We're taught to equate holding on with love and letting go with loss. But that's not always true. Sometimes, letting go is how we make room for what still matters. If you're feeling weighed down these days, maybe it's not life that's too heavy. Maybe it's just the things you've been carrying out of habit. Try clearing out one drawer, one shelf, not to make space for something new, but to make space for nothing, for quiet. You might be surprised how good that kind of emptiness can feel. As the clutter clears, we start to see a quieter, more intentional way of living take shape. 3. A quiet balance. There was a time when buying something felt like progress. A new appliance, a newer car, a sleeker phone. It gave the sense that life was moving forward, that we were keeping up. I don't think that desire came from greed. It came from a deeper place, a hope that comfort, stability, maybe even happiness, could be purchased if we just found the right thing. In this country, especially during the post-war years, that made sense. We came from scarcity. Ownership meant security. It meant we had made it. But somewhere along the line shifted. The enough we once hoped for never quite arrived. And now, the pace of consumption feels different. Quicker, louder. There's a pressure that didn't used to be there. Ads follow us into our inboxes and onto our phones. Sales are urgent, products are limited, and everything's designed to make us feel like we're just one purchase away from being better, happier, complete. I still believe in fair exchange. I'm not anti-capitalist. I think it's fair that if someone bakes a loaf of bread, they earn something for it. There's dignity in that. What worries me isn't the system itself, it's how easily we get swept up in it. How quickly we begin to buy not out of need or appreciation, but out of habit. Because everyone else is. Because it's Tuesday. Because there's a coupon. The truth is, when you step back just a little, when you stop clicking, add to cart every time a commercial tugs at your emotions, you begin to see how much of it is noise. And underneath that noise is something simpler, something more solid. The relationships we've built, the quiet moments we've earned, the small rituals that don't cost a thing but somehow fill us up more than any delivery ever could. These days, I try to be more mindful. I still buy things. I still enjoy comfort. But I ask myself gently, is this useful or just easy? Is it something I'll treasure or something I'll forget I bought by next week? More often than not, I find that I don't need it. That the real pleasure I was seeking was found elsewhere. I'm taking a walk, making something with my hands, calling someone I miss. I don't think we need to reject the world we live in, but I do think we can learn to live in it differently. To pause, to notice when our wants are being shaped by someone else's profit, and to trust that there's a deeper kind of satisfaction waiting for us when we stop chasing the next thing and start noticing what's already here. And when we step away from the noise of more, we find ourselves with time and spaccato rediscover what we love to do. 4. Making room for what matters. There's a strange kind of silence that settles in when you stop chasing the next thing. At first, it can feel uncomfortable, like something's missing. But after a while, you start to realize it's not emptiness. It's space. Space to breathe, to think, to choose how you want to spend your time instead of having it spent for you. I noticed it more after I retired. For the first time in decades, my calendar wasn't full. My days were my own. And with that space came a surprising question. Now what? I didn't want to just fill the time with shopping trips or errands that felt urgent but weren't. I wanted something that felt real, something that made the day feel full, not busy, but full. When we stop consuming so much, whether that means shopping, scrolling, or rushing from one place to another, we create the possibility of something else. For me, that something else came slowly. A walk in the neighborhood each morning. A return to the woodworking projects I used to love but never had time for. Sitting on the porch in the evening, just watching the light shift across the yard. It reminded me of how life used to feel when I was younger, before convenience became a business model, before everything was delivered in 2 days or less. Back when we made things with our hands or cooked meals from scratch, not because we had to, but because we wanted to. There was a rhythm to life, a kind of patience that I think many of us still long for, even if we can't quite name it. What I've come to believe is that doing is different from buying. When we buy something, the satisfaction is short-lived. But when we do something, especially something with our hands, our time, our attention, it leaves a different kind of imprint. It's not just about distraction. It's about connection. With ourselves, with others, with the moment we're in. I'm not saying you have to fill your days with projects or become a master gardener. But I will say this, the smallest act done with care often brings more joy than the most expensive purchase. Baking bread, writing a letter, fixing something instead of replacing it, calling a friend just to say hello. These aren't just tasks, they're anchors. They remind us who we are outside of what we own. If you've been feeling a little untethered lately, maybe it's not because you're doing too little, but because you've been told that doing means achieving, consuming, accumulating. Maybe it's time to reclaim your hours, not to be more productive, but to be more present. You might be surprised by how much meaning fits into a quiet afternoon. When you're not trying to buy one, living with less doesn't just free up time, it also begins to ease the financial weight we've carried for too long. 5. Peace costs less than you think. Some of the richest moments in my life have come from the simplest places. A quiet cup of coffee on the back porch, the sound of rain against the window while reading an old paperback, watching the birds crowd around the feeder, each one fluttering in and out like a tiny guest stopping by. I didn't have to plan these moments. I didn't have to buy anything to create them. And yet, they've stayed with me more than most of the big-ticket things I once thought mattered. When I was younger, like many people, I worked hard and tried to be responsible. That often meant aiming higher, earning more, upgrading where I could, keeping up in ways both big and small. There's nothing wrong with that path. For a long time, it gave me a sense of direction. But somewhere in the mix, I lost sight of how much joy already existed in the small, unpolished parts of life. We live in a culture where joy is often packaged and sold, where experiences are branded, marketed, and offered with a price tag. Weekend getaways, high-end hobbies, and gadgets promising relaxation or excitement. But the older I get, the more I see the contrast between temporary thrills and lasting contentment. The former fades fast. The latter builds slowly, often in silence, often when no one is watching. I've found a kind of wealth in slowing down. When you no longer feel the urge to chase after more, you start to appreciate what's already around you. A simple home-cooked meal, a phone call with someone you love, the quiet pride of finishing a puzzle or planting a few flowers in the yard. These things cost very little, but they offer so much. And perhaps most importantly, they give something back: a calm mind, a grateful heart, and a sense of place in the world. It's not always easy to shift away from the noise. Even now, I still feel the tug from time to time. A sale here, a flashy new must-have there. But I've learned to pause and ask myself, is this adding value to my life, or just filling space? Often, what I really need isn't something I can buy. It's rest, or presence, or simply a little time to sit and listen to the world move without me trying to keep up. If you've been longing for something quieter, simpler, more grounded, and ignore that feeling, you're not alone in it. You don't need a new lifestyle or a big change. Sometimes you just need to notice the small things again and give yourself permission to enjoy them fully without rushing to the next distraction. There's a peace in that, and it doesn't cost a thing. And as the stress lifts, what naturally rises to the surface is the desire to take better care of our Sylvester body and mind. 6. Learning to want less. Even after you've made the choice to live more simply, to slow down, there are days when the pull of consumerism sneaks back in. It's quiet, subtle. You might just be scrolling through your phone or passing a storefront window, and suddenly something whispers, "You should have that." Not because you need it, not even because you want it, but because for a brief moment, it promises to fill a space that may not even be empty. I know that feeling well. It still visits me. Sometimes I'll be in the middle of a perfectly good day and of those calm, ordinary ones where nothing much happens, and I'll find myself browsing an online store. Without any purpose, I'm not looking for anything. I'm just drawn. That little spark of maybe I'll feel better if I buy something. It's a habit many of us grew into without even noticing. For decades, we were taught to associate buying with fixing boredom, stress, loneliness, even identity. But what I've learned is that most of the time, we're not craving things, we're craving comfort. And stuff is just the easiest, most advertised answer. It takes real patience to sit with that feeling instead of reacting to it, to breathe through it, make a cup of tea, go for a walk, or call a friend instead. And over time, the craving fades. Not always completely, but enough that you recognize it for what it is. A passing urge, not a need. When I was growing up, people used what they had. Things were repaired, not replaced. Birthdays were special, not shopping events. There was a sense of enoughness because people had more, but because they were content with what they had. That feeling didn't come from discipline or sacrifice, it came from a different relationship with time and value. We lived slower, we noticed more, and maybe because of that, we weren't always reaching for something new. That's what I'm trying to return, tone it through guilt or rigidity, but through intention. I've started treating days without purchases as quiet victories. They're small reminders that I can live without adding more. And surprisingly, I feel more full, not less. I notice the books I already have, the clothes I actually like, the tools in the shed that just need sharpening, not replacing. There's a richness in rediscovery. If you're trying to resist the urge to always have more, know that it's okay to feel that struggle. It doesn't mean you're failing. It means you're paying attention. And every time you choose not to answer that call to consume, every time you pause, you are making room for something else to grow. Maybe it's stillness. Maybe it's appreciation. Maybe it's just a little more space in your day where nothing needs to be bought, fixed, or upgraded. That kind of space is rare now, and precious. Hold on to it. In the end, all of these quiet shifts lead us towards something deeper, a life not filled with more, but with meaning. The gentle shift. At some point, many of us begin to feel that the pace we've been living isn't quite ours. It's like we've been walking to the beat of a drum we didn't choose. We've filled our homes, filled our calendars, filled our heads, yet still felt something was missing. Slowing down isn't about stepping away from life, but stepping more fully into it, with clearer eyes, with softer steps. I've found that peace doesn't come from getting everything right. It comes from learning to live with less noiseless clutter in our homes, less pressure in our days, fewer expectations tied to things. The world tells us to go faster, do more, want more. But when you live long enough, you start to realize that more isn't always the answer. Often, it's just a distraction from what's already good. What stays with me now are the simple things: the warmth of sunlight on a worn wooden table, the sound of my neighbor's wind chimes, the smell of soup on the stove. These moments don't ask for much, only that we be present enough to notice them. So if life feels too heavy, too fast, too crowded, maybe it's time to loosen your grip. Let go of what no longer serves you. Make room for what does. You don't need to change everything. Just slow down enough to choose what matters, and let that be enough. Peace often arrives not in grand gestures, but in the quiet decision to live gently, honestly, and fully awake.